What are your thoughts? How'd you see?
Yeah, it was probably expected, but at the end of the day, it's still a shock to the AFL community. It's obviously the biggest penalty in the history of the game, but the AFL's big on integrity, so you knew they were going to come down with very heavy-handed.
Do you think James got away what he deserved, or lightly, or too much, or what?
I'm not sure. It's hard to know without the evidence being there, but at the end of the day, Hurdy's accepted it. So obviously, they knew they were in the wrong somehow. Obviously, they provided an environment that the AFL's concerned they provided an environment that potentially wasn't giving the right care to the players, potentially providing an environment where they could have been giving them prohibited substances. So the AFL's always going to not look too kindly upon that when they keep talking about the integrity of the game.
And can you, the Queensland public, as much as anyone, how significant is the draft picks as a penalty?
The draft picks are probably the most significant of the penalties because it just affects the club's ability to sort of build their future. Obviously, Essendon's list is in pretty good shape anyway, so they're probably in as good a position as anyone to combat it. They can still trade back into the first round or the second round, and they've still got a compensation pick, but the draft picks are probably what hurt you the most.
Just as an overall, as a blemish on the game, how would you describe what's happened over the last 6-7 months? And are you saddened by it, or just as a statesman of the game? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, we're certainly saddened by it. I think we all got sick of talking about the Essendon saga day in, day out. It certainly hasn't been good for the image of the game, that's for sure. And obviously no team's ever been wiped out of a final series in the 120-year history of the game. So that shows how significant it's been. I think we all just want to move on from it all, even though we haven't been caught up in the Essendon dramas. Everyone keeps getting asked questions about it. And the AFL's had a few issues over the last 2 or 3 seasons, a lot of off-field issues. So we understand the AFL's efforts to clean up the game in that regard, so we're just talking about the on-field stuff.
And what about Hurd getting a contract extension? Does that send the right message? I know he's been looked after, but maybe the timing of it is for that?
Look, at the end of the day, people make mistakes, people get suspended, but at the end of the day, as Andrew Demetrio says, there's room for forgiveness in the AFL, and if he goes away and serves his time, he should be allowed back in the game. Got to remember, James Hurd's been a great of the game. He's done a lot of good things for the game of AFL. So it would be good to see him back in there. Obviously, Essendon will be happy with that because if they can find a coach that's already in the inner sanctum, hopefully they'll be thinking it'll be able to remain status quo and they'll be able to keep going and, I suppose, in the upward direction.
How exciting is it with the Brisbane now being a finals chance?
Well, it's exciting for the boys because they're playing for something this week, so that's good to know. It's almost a bit of a mini final. It's good in the development of our group going forward. It's obviously unexpected and it's going to be a tough ask going to Geelong, but I think it helps. It's good preparation, whether we come through or not. I think it'll stand us in good stead going forward for, hopefully we'll be factoring the finals a lot more over the next few years.
Ramifications, Browny. Is this a wake-up call for all clubs?
Yeah, it is a wake-up call. I think the wake-up call probably came back in February and March, though. We know the AFL's certainly hitting the clubs up for better management and better governance of sports science issues and all those things related to the preparation of their players. So I think we've seen the landscape change over the last 5 or 6 months and probably changed for the better. And hopefully now we can move on and move forward in 2014 onwards, and where everyone's just talking about what happens on the field.